Ai Weiwei, thank you for joining us. Welcome to HFX 2020.
Thank you.
I wanted to start out by referring to a documentary that you were part of just a little earlier this year by the Dutch Public Broadcasting Service, VPRO. And it at one point in that documentary, there was a very harrowing piece of footage taken by a citizen journalist called Fang Bin. And he was taking it on his iPhone of himself just before the door to his apartment was broken down by the police under the pretext of doing a temperature check with the coronavirus. And he was at his wit's end. He was desperate. He was shaking. He was crying. He referred to a lawyer, a human rights lawyer, who'd simply disappeared. He said his WeChat account had been taken down. He could see the plainclothes police officers at the base of his building, and he knew that he was going somewhere but didn't know where. Weiwei, what happens to people like Fang Bin?
Well, in China, basically, there's only one person controls the whole country, 1.4 billion people. And any voice which not even against the government, but even just questioning or not on the same line with the party will be considered as a subversive of a state power, which is pretty strong crime. It could be the biggest crime, political crime. Because simply you're going to be disappeared and nobody can help you. Even the lawyers cannot help you. Government would name a lawyer to work on your case, but basically those lawyers are on the side of the government. So normally you'll disappear half a year or even 1 year. Some disappeared much more than half a year because they can extend the time for so-called investigation. So that kind of punishment, everybody is scared of. Because simply you cannot asking for justice in that nation.
And your own case, you were imprisoned for, I believe it was 81 days. And during that period, none of your family, none of your friends, nobody had any idea at all where you were. I mean, presumably they assumed that you'd been arrested, but you didn't even know yourself, did you, where you were?
And that's basically is the facts. I was disappeared in the airport. I would never imagine, why they have to make that kind of, I was basically kidnapped in the airport. And by state police, and they've been sending to a hidden location. Person asked if I can make a phone call to my mom, just tell I'm in the safe hands, in the state. I'm not scared, but, I can tell her, state take me or police, or if I can have a lawyer, but of course get refused. Nobody, even soldiers around me, and they're military soldiers, they don't even know where they are. It's completely sealed location.
The people who actually imprisoned you themselves don't know what they're doing and why. They're simply obeying orders. Is that really what's going on? I mean, when your prison guards, did you have a sense at all that they were people who in any way sympathized with you, or were they themselves on camera, themselves having to perform a role? How did they relate to you?
They are 19 or 20 years old soldier from very poor area. The only reason they come to become a soldier is they would have a proper lunch and dinner. Otherwise they just have, it's very difficult for their family. So they don't know who I am. They call me by numbers, and the number is my room number. Like a room maybe 217 or something like that. So, and they cannot talk to me because, it's very restricted.
What do you think on the bigger picture, on the bigger scale, that governments of democracies, the United States, of course, being the leading democracy in the world, but there are democracies all over the world. There are democracies in Europe, there are democracies in Asia. What should they be doing and why to help people who are in the position that you were in and so many tens and hundreds of thousands of people in China are in right this very moment?
I think we have to face in the reality. China is a big nation and is moving up very fast. There's no question China will surpass US in become the number one economic power. And China has built a very big plan, it's with clear strategy, very clear vision about how that they want that nation to be, and they are doing a lot of works globally. And the U.S. and the Europe are different situations. They have been strong power for past 100 years, and they enjoyed some kind of dominant of the power. But same times, they need China so much, because China only become today is because the West needed. They need a huge market, huge a huge labor market or a huge market for consumer market. So in that case, China grows extremely fast with US and Europe's strong support in many ways.
I mean, this has been the dilemma, hasn't it? And perhaps even the heart of the problem with Western policy, really since the end of the Cold War. There was this illusion that capitalist economics would inevitably lead to democratization in China. But the core of the problem, essentially, is what you just referred to, isn't it? Is that the China is an essential part of the global economy, which means that a lot of our material prosperity is tied up with the Chinese economy. I mean, Lenin famously said that communists should give the bourgeoisie the rope and they would hang themselves on it. I wonder whether
yes,
in the
I remember that very well. When I was growing up, I studied the imperialism is the end of the capitalism. And he has this vision, I think is very funny vision. That time I was in the labor camp with my father. I don't even understand what is capitalism and what is imperialism. But the vision says it has to give the training to the poor nations and hand the rope. And if they all pull the rope, then they will die. So I think that's a very funny vision, but which tells great truth. Because West simply cannot survive just by itself. From the colonial time to the modern post-colonial new world order or globalization. So the West needed to expand or explore to get a new resource and to keep this fast developing capital society.
Right. I mean, there is this, and I think there's a certain realization that we need to be less dependent upon China, but we can't be completely independent of China. China is too important, and I put it to the rope that the Communist Party of China is offering to us is precisely to be the material prosperity that we all enjoy. And look, I'm not taking the moral high ground. I need a job. I need to put food on the table, and so do all of us. So, what do you say to ordinary people in countries like the United States and Canada and Great Britain and Germany and also in Japan and South Korea who have the benefits of democracy? Doesn't it ultimately come down to sacrifice, that we have to make at least a certain small sacrifice for these values of freedom that we believe in?
I think yes, I think ideally, yes, you have to make sacrifice, but sacrifice words, nobody like to listen to that word. We have enjoyed the comfort for too long, and we forget that comfort is at the cost of someone else. So the only possibility to let somebody not to pull the string on which is on your neck is to put another string on the your opponent's neck too. So if you pull, I will pull. So that is the only possibility for negotiating. Otherwise, it's no way to negotiate. The Chinese government made very clear that it's not possible you censor us because inside you are us, inside us are you. There, we're share. We're winning together or we will die together. That's why they are very arrogant. But they forget this is very different society, China and the West. In principles, ideology, or culturally, are very different period of development. So it has to find some kind of common ground or some kind of principles. We always have to be clear about it. If you don't do like that, you're going to fail. It's a failure. Then you'll take the consequence.
Well, that comes back to something we were talking about just before we went on air. As I said, and as you noticed, we just put out this handbook for democracies, China versus democracy, the greatest game, and within that, and something that we're trying to spread around are these HFX China principles, which are really for ordinary people as well as for governments, and they come down to things like simply not acceding to censorship. Don't buy goods and services, especially when you know that they've been produced through forced labor. I mean, this does come down to individual responsibility. And you say that China and Western countries are founded on different principles. Well, our principles, at the very least, are individual responsibility, which is the flip side of freedom, that with these freedoms come certain obligations. You're a mild-mannered gentleman, and you're not forcing this down people's throats, but there must be a part of you that really wished that there was a little more of a sense in countries where we have these freedoms that these kind of principles should be shared universally, and that we really do have an obligation to step up to help people who are suffering so terribly in China today.
I think what you did is very essential and is necessary before take any actions. It's about education. It's about the information. In democratic society, the transparency and the information is equipped individuals to questioning what they get, how the government behaved, what is kind of deal they're making with China. Every time you have officials come to China, and they are so happy they made so many deals, and of course their political career are based on those deals. And all the companies they also make profit because this. So it's very hard for the West to really to use those principles and to guarding their behaviors, because it's just so much so much profit, and so I think, but still, the principles are principles, and that means you will not winning the game by not follow those basic principles.
I mentioned to you a little earlier as well before we came on air that I had a long background in Central Eastern Europe. I have an apartment in Bratislava in Slovakia. My daughter is half Slovak, half English, and she was actually born on November the 17th, which is the anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, which saw the end of communism. And you probably know of Alexander Dubček. The famous leader of the Prague Spring in 1968, which was tragically followed by the invasion. And Dubček unfortunately died in 1992, but he did live long enough to see freedom in Czechoslovakia. And I'm always struck by the beautiful title of his autobiography, Hope Dies Last. I wonder whether you, Weiwei, have hope, and whether you believe that you will live to see a free China someday.
Well, I do have hope. I think China has to overcome the problems. By doing what they're doing now, it's not going to meet the competition, and it's not going to have a real success, and may also leading to a bigger global tragic or disasters. So, but still, I it takes a lot of it takes a lot of effort for everyone, not only one in China but outside China, to understand China and to really come up a clear vision. And we have to work together. It's global condition today, and especially with China, has to work together globally.
Well, as a final question, it's a very good point to end on. We have, of course, in the United States, a new president coming in on January the 20th, in the form of Joe Biden. What would you say to President-elect Biden? What would you want from him as the leader of the free world?
I think certainly this is a big task. It's not a short solution, but a long vision. United States is a great state, and also it has been as a leading force of the modern time. So I need really a visionary leader to understand what is a true political condition globally, with China or with Europe and the United States itself. It has to survive. And we all have to face the new conditions. And that's the kind of condition we never had before.
Ai Weiwei, thank you so much for joining us at HFX 2020.
Thank you for letting me talk here.